Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We're diving headfirst into a really practical and, I think, insightful guide today.
Yeah, it's called Arab Cultural Training, a guide for Sub-Saharan Africans.
And we're focusing just on Chapter 1, the importance of knowing culture.
Exactly. And it's got a very specific audience, It's written for Kenyans who are planning to work or maybe are already working in the Arab world.
Right.
It mentions places like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Lebanon, the UAE. These are the kinds of places it has in mind.
And the guide doesn't sugarcoat it. It says, look, moving abroad, working in a new place, it's tough. There are definitely challenges.
But it makes this promise, and this really drives the first chapter we're looking at,
It is.
that if you have the right knowledge, and importantly, the right attitude, you can do more than just survive. You can actually thrive.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then, to really unpack that core message just based on this chapter. What does it mean to understand culture here, and how do you build that, what does it call it, cultural intelligence?
Cultural intelligence, yeah. That's the term they use.
And it kicks off with this great little proverb, an African proverb it cites.
Oh, yeah.
He who knows much does not speak much. Kind of hints at maybe needing to listen and observe first, right?
It's a nice way to put it, a bit of humility from the start. So to get there, we need the guide's definition of culture.
What does it say?
It defines it as our collective values, beliefs, customs, practices, behaviors, and objects. Basically, everything that characterizes a group of people.
Okay, so it's the whole package deal.
Yeah.
The invisible stuff like beliefs and the visible stuff like how people act or what things they use.
Precisely. And the guide stresses that every group, every, tribe, as it were, shares its own distinct culture.
And that's not just theory. It gives people a real sense of belonging, identity.
Definitely. It uses a really good example from Kenya, the Maasai dress.
Ah, yes.
Calls it beautiful, unique. And the point isn't just, oh, that's nice fabric. It's that the red Maasai dress, for instance, it communicates something deep about identity, history, connection, way beyond just fashion.
That makes sense.
It speaks.
What's really interesting, though, is how unaware we often are of our own culture's influence. The guide points this out.
How so?
Well, it says most people don't actually know the deep reasons behind why they behave certain ways.
Because you just absorb it growing up.
Exactly. It's ingrained early on, becomes almost invisible, like the assumptions you make without even thinking.
It's like trying to describe the air you breathe. You don't notice it until it changes.
Good analogy. And this text also reminds us, culture isn't frozen. It's always shifting, subtly changing, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, so it's deep, often invisible, and always evolving.
Which leads to this really, really crucial point the guide makes. Culture itself isn't right or wrong. It just is.
But there's a but coming, I feel.
But because our own culture feels so normal, so right to us, we instinctively tend to judge differences we encounter in other cultures.
Okay. And it gives examples of how this happens, right?
Yeah.
To make it concrete.
Yes, it asks some pretty direct questions to kind of put you on the spot, make you see your own potential biases.
Like what?
Like, do you believe it is good to eat a lizard?
Okay. Probably not my first choice for dinner.
Right. And the guide suggests if your cultural background associates lizards with, say, being unclean or even connected to witchcraft, your no isn't just a preference. It might carry an underlying judgment.
So I might see someone who does eat lizards as, well, maybe dirty or even doing something wrong or evil, as the text puts it.
Potentially, yeah. It stems from that cultural programming. Or here's another one it asks.
Go on.
What does it mean to dress modestly as a woman? Can you show your hair, thighs, or breast in public?
Ooh, okay.
But
That varies hugely.
exactly. And the guide explains if your culture says showing hair is immodest, you're conditioned to see a woman who does show her hair as, well, maybe immoral or not respectable.
Again, it's the cultural lens creating the judgment, not necessarily a personal attack.
Correct. And one more. Is it okay to pray and worship God while wearing shoes?
Depends entirely on the tradition, right?
Precisely. If your background requires removing shoes for worship, seeing someone pray with shoes on might lead you to judge them as, not serious believers or disrespectful.
So these examples really show how automatically we can apply our own rules to others and find them lacking.
And the guide is very blunt about the danger here.
What does it warn about?
It says explicitly this lack of understanding, this tendency to judge. It can break relationships. It can even cost you your job.
Wow. Okay. So the stakes are actually quite high when you're moving between cultures.
Very high, which is why it introduces the solution, cultural intelligence.
Right. The CQ. So what is it? according to this guide?
Fundamentally, it's about learning to respond in a way that's actually appropriate for the specific cultural context you're in at that moment.
Okay, that sounds like it involves more than just book smarts. The guide mentions emotional intelligence, too.
Oh, absolutely crucial. It says you need a degree of emotional intelligence, specifically managing those immediate gut reactions.
Like anger or frustration.
Exactly. Anger, frustration, even resentment when something feels weird or wrong compared to your norm. The guide frames this as often being a kind of fear.
A fear of the unfamiliar.
Yeah, fear of what's different. The discomfort manifests as those negative emotions.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
But then the guide is really careful to say what cultural intelligence is not.
Okay, what isn't it?
It doesn't mean you have to suddenly agree with everything in the new culture or abandon your own beliefs.
And it definitely doesn't mean you have to change who you are deep down.
No, absolutely not. You don't shed your own identity. The analogy it uses is a chameleon.
Ah, okay. How does that work?
The chameleon changes its outside color to blend in, right? But its DNA, its fundamental nature, stays the same.
So CQ is about adjusting the externals, maybe how you communicate, or certain behaviors, but not your core self.
That's exactly it. Adjusting behavior, not your fundamental values or identity.
Okay, so if that's the goal, adapting externally, how do you actually develop this CQ? Where do you start?
The guide says it starts with becoming culturally aware, just noticing.
And is that like a switch you flip?
Not at all. The text is clear. This is a process. It takes hard work. It takes time.
Like learning anything complex, I guess?
Yeah, it compares it to going through school. You wouldn't expect a Class 1 student to know what a Class 5 student knows, right?
True.
Cultural intelligence grows similarly with deliberate effort and over time.
What kind of mindset does that effort require?
Two key things: commitment to maintaining an open mind and cultivating a curious attitude.
Curious.
Curious in the sense of seeking to understand why people do what they do, rather than jumping straight to judgment. It requires a real sense of humility.
That humility point seems important. Doesn't it mention someone specific on this?
It does. It includes this great insight from a Jordanian Arab named Najem Rana.
What does she say?
She advises that becoming culturally aware really begins when you first look inward at your own beliefs.
Start with yourself.
Yes. And keep in mind that while your society is the norm for you, they may appear strange to others.
That's powerful. Realizing you're normal isn't the only normal. That takes humility.
It really does. And the guide pushes this further. It compares stepping into a new culture when you're in that learning phase. It's like going back to baby class as an adult.
Wow, okay. That really means swallowing your pride.
Totally. You have to humble yourself, become a genuine learner again.
And it points out what happens if you don't adopt that mindset, right?
Yeah, it mentions the unfortunate reality that many people find it so difficult, so frustrating trying to navigate a new culture without this learner approach.
That they just give up.
They give up. They return home feeling frustrated, angry, sometimes even depressed because it didn't work out.
So, okay, practically speaking then, if you are going to be that learner, that adult and baby class, what does the guide say you should actually do?
It gets practical. It suggests things like try to learn some of the language, even basic phrases.
Makes sense.
Observe and try to understand the social rules, how people interact, what's polite, what's not. Learn the basic laws of the land, obviously.
Right.
And maybe the deepest part, try to understand what people believe and, crucially, why they believe it, even if you don't agree with it.
So it's about active observation and asking why.
Exactly. And framing that whole learning process, that baby class idea, framing it not just as hard work, but as an adventure.
An adventure. How so?
Discovering the beauty in things that are new and different new places, different ways of dressing, unfamiliar accents, trying new foods, seeing it as exploration.
That definitely sounds more appealing than just a struggle.
And the guide promises real benefits if you embrace this. It says you won't just find success in your job.
Look at all.
You'll actually get to enjoy the beauty of the culture you're in. And maybe surprisingly, you'll likely gain a deeper appreciation for your own culture, too, by seeing it in contrast.
That's a fantastic outcome. Seeing your own culture with fresh eyes.
Yeah. So the guide, this book itself, it positions itself as just the beginning.
Not the final answer.
No, just the start of what needs to be a lifelong process, really. Humbly learning about people, about different cultures. That's presented as the essential way to succeed whenever you cross into a new cultural space.
It's about continuous learning and adapting.
Continuous adaptation, understanding.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive into the first chapter, the importance of knowing culture.
Right.
We've seen the guide argue that understanding culture isn't just, nice, it's absolutely vital. Vital for navigating new places, for avoiding those pitfalls like snap judgments and damaged relationships.
And ultimately for thriving, not just surviving.
Exactly. And the key it offers is this cultural intelligence. Starts with awareness, needs humility, an open, curious mind.
And crucially, it's about adapting your outside approach, not changing your core self. The chameleon, not a total transformation.
Right. So drawing from those challenging questions the source itself posed.
Yeah.
Here's maybe a thought for you, the listener, to take away.
Okay.
Thinking about how deep our own culture runs, like we discussed. How would you even start to explain your culture to someone totally unfamiliar with it? Where would you begin?
Or maybe think about those practical steps the guide mentioned, learning language snippets, social rules, understanding beliefs. What's one small, concrete thing you could do, maybe even starting today, to begin learning about a different culture you're curious about or might encounter?
Just something to reflect on. Thanks for going on this deep dive with us.